Hello and welcome to the special edition of Awaaz the Voice. And today we have a very special guest from the Hindi film industry. He's a Dada Sahab Phalke Award winner. He's a Padma Shri, he's a Padma Bhushan, and 18 national award winning gentleman with lots of other awards as well as the list is endless if you go to his home and see that he is probably surrounded with awards in the film industry. A very warm welcome, Shyam Benegal sir, to Awaaz the Voice studio, and thank you for agreeing to speak to me.
Thank you.
As you are. Thank you, sir. You have never said no to me, even if it was in the middle of the night, and I'm grateful to you for that, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So it's just a freewheeling normal conversation, but we'll try to provoke people's thought with this. Sir, just 75 years of independence we are celebrating, and you must have been 12 years old when we achieved independence.
Yes.
So, how do you recall this, and how did it shape your boyhood, your youth, and finally your middle age at 13, and you could make your first film?
Well, you see, when India became independent, I had moved into the middle school. In my school, I finished my primary section and moved into the middle school. And I think, at that time in either second form or whatever it used to be called in those days. I was about 4 years from being, passing the matriculation examination. 4 years before that. So that's when when India became independent. And I remember that particular day very much because, it was for the first time we heard Jawaharlal Nehru's voice. Nehru's voice.
Yes.
And he made a speech there. But that very day, before that, we were woken up middle of the night. Parents had woken us all up middle of the night when he made. I couldn't understand what he was saying when he made the the famous speech of Jawaharlal Nehru, which is one of the world's great speeches, as you know. And that is the speech, midnight, at the midnight hour when he started that speech. Now, having heard that, and then gone to sleep, and then went back next morning to school. And in school, of course, we had a function in my school, which is a kind of it had nationalist pretensions, let me put it that way. Because, at that time, most of the schools used to be, that was singing God Save the King in the morning. English, if you went to an English language school or English run schools, because most of them were either run by Irish or something like that. It was always a kind of some UK-based people running those schools, if you wanted to learn in English. So, and this was a very unusual thing that happened because I went to school the next morning. For the first time, we were in assembly, and where the Tricolor went for the first time in our school. And with the Tricolor flag going up, we all stood up. And of course, that time, although there was Jana Gana Mana, but most people, in fact, knew Sare Jahan Se Acha. That was because it was written by Allama Iqbal, and then, and it used to be the common song whenever the Congress party used to sing at their own sessions. So we all knew Sarojini Seth. And Janagana Manna was more difficult at that time because when it was chosen, of course, in the Constituent Assembly, but then since it was not in Hindi, it was not in Hindi or Hindustani or Urdu, so it was
Sanskrit.
it wasn't very easy for you to learn at that stage. But of course, soon after that, we started to sing that because then we did. Sarojini became a national song while the anthem was Janagana.
Right.
And so in my school, we always used to start the day with Janagana, and then we finish the day with Sarojini.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah, so that was a very that was something that happened in my school. And my school, if you want to know the name of my school, because I grew up in Sikandrabad, Hyderabad area, so
Yes.
it is called Mehboob College High School. And Mehboob College High School was named after Mehboob Ali Pasha, the last Nizam's father. So it was named after him. And but it was an English medium school. Otherwise, in Hyderabad at that time, the normal schools were always Urdu medium.
Telugu or
No, Urdu medium.
Urdu medium.
Urdu medium schools. And so this was an English medium school where we had languages as a second language. We had the choice of either doing Urdu or Telugu.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it was because it was Hyderabad state, but they gave prominence to Urdu, but you could choose Telugu if you wanted. So you had the option between those two. But a third option was offered. In my school, a third option was, which was if you wanted, you could even take Sanskrit.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. So it was, but then Sanskrit meant that it was the most difficult language to learn of all three. You see? So, but most of us chose to do Urdu. But some of us also decided that why not? Let's see, try Sanskrit. And the funny part of it was that I took that as an optional language, and I found that my teacher himself did not know any Sanskrit. So
how did you manage?
No, we only read about we read about the two mythologies, the famous Ramayana and Mahabharata. But the fact was that we did nothing about Sanskrit. But it's very funny. But the fact was that that's how it was. Because, and it was so after independence. There was a great deal of confusion. In the what should be the manner in which the school system should work again in independent India and so on and so forth. So anyway, so all of those things were happening at that time, which was very exciting for a young mind, And so that's what I remember from beginning of school, meaning beginning of middle school. Then after that, of course, we got used to many things. And by 1950, of course, it was very clear exactly how we would move because it became a republic. We were no longer Dominion status nation. We were proper India, And so 1950 onward, there was a great clarity. And because the Constitution came into operation. 1947, it was only they just thinking in terms of writing a constitution for the country. So anyway, all that happened. Now, what else would you like to know from that time? Because
I would like to know, how did it shape your boyhood? because the kind of filmmaker you had been, you chose to make very different film that film industry almost never knew. Only one Satyajit Ray used to make a kind of films acclaiming all kinds of international awards, and you were really impressed with him. So, what kind of a child were you that you actually at 39 made a film like Ankur? And you must have been very serious kind of a child, no naughtiness or something like that. We were talking about how it shaped your boyhood, your youth, because the kind of films you made are very different that film industry was not making.
Well, you see, when one of the things about my childhood was my father was a still photographer.
Yes.
And as a still photographer, we were very familiar with photography, because we also used to take the pictures on our box cameras and all that kind of thing. But the important thing was that he was also very keen. He was a keen kind of amateur 16 millimeter filmmaker. But he was making films to tell stories. He was making films about his own family.
Interesting, yes.
Yes. And that 16 millimeter camera, silent camera, he used to be, because I come from a very large family.
Yes. 6 sisters, 4 brothers.
yeah. Six sisters, 4 brothers. So 10 of us. So my father used to, when every child was born, he would make a film about that child. Until the big time came. So the first 2 years, the average was every 2 years there would be a child, additional child in the family. So he would make a film about his children from the time they were 0 to the time they were about 2.5 years of age. Then he would lose interest in that child, and the new child was there to make a film. So
Interesting.
We had 10 films on all 10 children. We had our own films. So these films, my father would show with his guests. When we had a guest over for dinner, and when they would come, he would very proudly would show the films about children.
Yes.
So he had these films, and he used to show them. So we were very familiar with the medium.
Right.
Because and it was not a strange thing for us. And apart from that, because we were staying in the cantonment area, and we had a cinema, which was not far from where we lived. About less than 400 yards actually. And in that particular cinema, it was the Garrison Cinema. And as the name suggests, Garrison Cinema means it was meant for the army garrison.
Yes.
Cantonment area. And that Garrison Cinema, because it was an army cinema, they used to have films in several languages.
Right.
Weekends were always films that were in English language.
English film and Hindi film.
Yeah, the English films mostly from Hollywood. And then from Monday onwards, every 1-2 days there would be a change. You would have a film in Hindi, you would have a film in Telugu, you may have had a film in Marathi, but most of them were Telugu and Tamil films, because I was in Hyderabad, and then you would have Hindi films, which is Bombay Film Industry films.
Yes.
So you had these 3 Indian language films, that is Hindi,
right.
Tamil films, and weekends were always English language. So there was
and you chose to watch English films and Hindi films.
Yeah, no, it was easiest to do that because you see, it came on holidays. It was on the
Okay.
weekend. Yeah. Otherwise, schools, you can't possibly go to see a movie when school is going on. So
Right.
on the weekend, it was easier to go and see the film. But then
Right.
even then, we couldn't really afford to go and pay for a ticket and see a film because my parents wouldn't have frowned upon that. But I got very hooked onto films, largely because we had the 16 millimeter film camera at home, and we used to have our own screenings. That
Oh, interesting.
yes, at home. So I then made friends with the projectionist at this cinema, and I used to go there along with my older brother. Two of us used to go there. The projectionist was showing the films. We would watch the film from the projection. So
Oh,
that
interesting.
yes, so that way we saw a whole bunch of Hollywood films. You know, so more than any other film, we saw more Hollywood films than any other film.
And at that age.
And yes, and but my father was very interested in Hindi films,
Right.
you know, the Bombay films. So for which the entire family would be taken to see.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Interesting.
family viewing of films was usually Bombay films, which the family used to go and see. Of course, there was the Telugu films and so forth. Those films, occasionally, the maids and so on in the house, so they had also see films. My mother would take them out to see a Telugu film,
Right.
things like that.
Right.
So we were very familiar with films. Let me put it
Right.
that, and therefore it
So
was
with
a natural interest in the cinema. And of course, growing up meant that in those days, you used to get these little leaflets that told the synopsis of
ab-
the
about the film, yeah.
about the film, and the most well-produced ones used to be that of the Hollywood films.
Okay. Very
Yeah.
interesting. Yes.
So I had a huge collection of those. That
Okay.
yes, I used
Okay.
to collect them, and like collect comic books. So I used to collect comic books as well as this. So that was
Very
the
interesting.
first library. I mean, as a child, and then of course we started to read books and so on. So
Right.
that is how the interest in the cinema actually developed. But
And you, sir, if I may interfere, you had a very different choice of the kind of filmmakers you liked. Coppola and Martin Scorsese and a couple of Iranian filmmakers that you talk about. And later Rituparno Ghosh and Adur Gopalakrishnan. So is it because of the kind of films, serious films that you saw that you had a very different taste, liking of different filmmakers across the globe?
well, you see, mainly because my eldest brother, he was an artist. He was in Calcutta, and when he used to come home for holidays, one of the things that he had discovered in Calcutta was neorealist cinema. Italian immediately after the war, after the Second World War, Italy started to develop a film industry, and you had very well-known Italian directors became very famous. So they started to make films, and that whole cinema was called neorealism
Neorealism cinema.
area in critical circles. And
Right.
soon after that, the French cinema, that also got out of the because they were all dominated, as you know, that part of the world was dominated by Hollywood. obviously, where it was, since it was Europe, in Europe, because they wanted to shake off the dominance of American cinema on them.
Okay.
They wanted their own stories to be told. So suddenly you develop the Italian neorealist cinema.
Right.
Yeah. So, and same thing happened in France a decade later, which they call it Nouvelle Vague, the new cinema of France. And then
Right.
you also had the British new cinema.
Right.
Yeah. So Europe itself went through a whole change, trying to break away from the dominance of Hollywood.
Right. Right.
Producing their own films, producing their own kind of thought out films, and not get totally dominated by America. In
Right.
India, what had happened was that the so-called what we call commercial cinema, that was the dominant kind of cinema we had, whether
Right.
it was Hindi, whether it was Marathi, whether Bengali, whatever language you can think of, in India where films were being made. Now they followed another slightly different trajectory because it was originally it was kind of an extension of what professional theatre was.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah.
Urban professional theatre.
Right.
Because Bombay and Calcutta used to have urban professional theatre. Now,
Right.
professional theatre, as you know, had a very distinct form. They used to have kind of melodramatic plays,
Yeah.
Aga, Kashmiri type of thing,
Right. Right. Right.
those kind of things. And
Right.
in that, one of the important things was that you told a dramatic story, acted it out, etc., etc. But in order to keep the audience interest for about 3 hours, 3.5 hours, they would
3 hours.
3 hours, and full entertainment for the evening. So
Right.
yes, in order that the audience will not get bored, with seeing, they had to have comic asides,
Oh.
comic interludes. You
Right.
would have songs, and that is only when the sound came into the cinema.
Right.
When
Right.
sound came into cinema, it was big novelty at that time. So, but in order that because it's still very primary kind of sound films that were made,
Yes, sir.
it was not technologically fully developed.
Modern. Yeah. Right.
But still, it was a novelty. But
Right.
in between, in order that people wouldn't get bored with anything, there would be live acts.
Oh, interesting.
Yes,
Okay.
you would have intermissions. During the intermission, you would have a little dance thing, or you would have a song. Things like that. Now,
Right.
those got included
Right, sir.
in the form of the film itself when sound came.
Oh. Okay.
When you went to the cinema, you didn't need to have live performances with the cinema.
Right.
You got integrated into one.
They were recorded and shown.
That became a form.
Right.
That became a form of Indian cinema, popular
Right.
form of Indian cinema, which has remained almost until very recently.
Right.
Because it's one of the most important things about Indian cinema, as you know, in the sound era, was not just the actors and stars and so on and so forth. That because this form is such that you develop stars, but
Right.
more than stars, you also had very famous music directors and very famous playback singers.
Right.
in the beginning, of course, the actors themselves used to sing.
Yes.
Like if you like KL Saigal and so on and so forth, they sang their own
But-
song.
Yeah, there.
Later, if your audiences wanted it to be, the quality of the singing had to be better. The
Right.
music accompanied had to be much more professional. All of these things. So then
Right.
found that we had the technology in order to do playback singing. So even if the actor didn't know how to sing, he just had a mic, and you could get really first-rate playback singers to sing. Like you could have an actress who had no ability to
Who
sing,
could do both?
but suddenly you had Asha Bhosle singing for her,
Right.
Lata Mangeshkar singing for her, and so on. It's same thing. Or if you had a
Right.
who is a very kind of a romantic actor, then you would
Right.
have Bharat Mahmood singing for him, and Rafi would sing for everybody.
For everyone. Right. I wanted to know because you made your first film at 39, while you wanted to make it at the age of 20. So what, number one, what did it take so long? And the kind of films you made, were you confident that cinema, which was on those days a very inward looking, multi-starrer, multi-crore films, Sholay was Sholay was ruling the roost those days. You came with Ankur, and you suddenly changed the definition of filmmaking, and people started calling you it alternative cinema. So number one, why did it take you so long to make your first film? And second, when you made these films one after the other, Ankur, Nishan, Manthan, and people started calling you pioneer of alternate cinema. How did you take to those terms?
Well, you see, when I wanted to be a filmmaker the moment I started to use my father's 16 millimeter camera to tell
Right.
stories of our own as a
Right.
schoolboy. But
And you did also.
yes, I
You
did.
did.
Yes, my first film was called Chutkiyon Mein Mauj Wada, which was about kids playing and somebody gets lost and the lost and found story, that sort of thing. But more than that, I think what got me very interested in wanting to be a filmmaker was because one of my cousins was already a filmmaker.
Right. Guru
He,
Dutt.
Gurudat, yeah. So, and Gurudat was actually a dancer. He was with Uday Shankar's troupe. So he was with,
Interesting.
yeah, and he was with Uday Shankar. And my uncle, one of my uncles, used to do all the film publicity and also publicity for Uday Shankar.
Right.
You
Right.
know, when this troupe used to go travel all over the place, all the publicity material used to be designed by an uncle of mine in Calcutta. So
Right.
at that time, and Gurdat's family, that is my cousin family, they used to live in Calcutta. He grew up there. Gurdat grew
Right.
up in Calcutta. And then my uncle got Gurudat, because his interest was only in dance and the arts and so on and so forth. He said, since you show so much interest in dance, maybe that's where you should go, because otherwise you're just wasting your time. Because you're not doing well in school, you're not really interested in studies and so on. So,
You were not doing well in. Sorry, you were not doing well in school, and you didn't tell us this.
we talk of Gurudat.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
I did very well in my studies. It was,
One can make.
yeah. It was I'm talking of Gurudat. So my uncle was in Calcutta.
Right.
He knew the music director, Uday Shankar's music director, was in fact a cousin or some such thing. He was a very well-known music director called Vishnudas Shirali. So
Right.
he got, yeah. So Gurudat introduced to Vishwanath Shirali and saying, "Look, why don't you try and get this boy to join Uday Shankar?"
Right.
So he joined Uday Shankar and went to Almora, where Uday Shankar had his dance studio.
Right.
And Guru became a dancer. Guru Dutt became a dancer. By the time he was 17, 18, he was already with the troupe, with
Right.
the Uday Shankar's troupe. So he was, somebody who from there, when he made his first film, because he
Like,
became, from there, he became a dance director in film business,
interesting.
in
Yes.
Bombay. And
Right.
here, he got an opportunity to make his first film, which was Basi. And when
Yes.
Basi came, and when it became a very successful film.
Right.
And Gurudat was very young. He was only about 25 years of age.
Right. Right.
So he became, in some way, a kind of hero.
Idol for you.
Yeah. But when you're young, you suddenly say, "My God, it's just wonderful." I mean, he's become a well-known filmmaker and he's an excellent director and so on. And he's only 25 years of age. So
Yes.
my ambition, I said, when I finish my school, I'll join some college. And only thing I want to do is to make films, but I should make my first feature film by the time I was 25 years of age.
Yes. Yes. I've
So
seen.
there's this kind of ambition that also drives you forward.
Yes. Yes.
Although my interest in cinema or my aesthetic sense was developed quite differently. So it was not based on indie films at all.
Right.
I was more interested as I was growing up.
Right.
More interested in films that were made, like, say, for instance, neorealist films in Italy, the new cinema of France, Nouvelle Vague of France, new cinema of Britain, and things like that. So
Right.
naturally, the way I started to look at film and the way I said how film stories should be told, when they become believable, they are not kind of they want to get involved. They want you to get involved in life rather than escape from life.
Right. Right.
Your everyday life. Because our film entertainment was, you should forget about your everyday cares. You go to the cinema to forget all of that. You're taken into a kind of dream world.
Yes.
And a kind of escape from your everyday life.
But you never objected to that either. You said those who want to make films for entertainment, let them make it. I want to make a different kind of a film because people primarily go to cinema for entertainment. That is what you had said in an interview to Girish Karnad Sahab, I think.
No. But the fact is that there was never a question of not wanting to entertain people. People, otherwise, why will they come to see your film?
Right.
They will only come to see a film if they are going to be entertained by it. But so my definition of entertainment was evolved differently in the sense that you can get films, audiences come and see your film. If they be involved, like, say, for instance, when you read a book, when you read a novel, it doesn't always have to be a kind of plot point. You can get serious books.
Yes.
And you can get yourself involved in stories that are told seriously. You don't necessarily have to get somebody who's writing a thriller. So you can have literary merit that will also hold attention. Similarly, so apply the same principle, you could do the same thing with film stories
True.
or narratives in films. And because of that, my interest grew in wanting to make films that would be, not like this. So that's why the interest in neorealist cinema, or people like Kurosawa and Japan and so on. So they were making very serious, intelligent cinema,
Yes.
not escapist films. And that was what got me hooked on to say that, look, this is what one has to create in our film.
Right. Right.
And suddenly, when I was in college, early in college, I used to be a competitive swimmer,
Right.
representing my college and then university as well. So I did one of the inter-university swimming championships. I represented my university in Calcutta, also my state actually, and
Right.
where national swimming championships was taking place. And my uncle in Calcutta said, "Look, since you are so interested in the cinema, have you heard of a person called Chandra Ray? He's just made a film called Pathe Panchali.
Pathe Panchali, yes. Yeah.
Pathe Panchali, and maybe you would like to see that film. You know, if you're so interested in films." And he's also very interesting because he was a commercial artist before he became a filmmaker. And that's what
Yeah.
the uncle said. And so I took time off from my college and then went to see the film. When I went to see this film, I said, all business I was dreaming about, the kind of films I want to make, that I said, immediately is realized in this man, when he made one. And I wanted to meet him immediately.
Right.
Yeah, but it wasn't possible at that time. It was possible the next time I went to Calcutta.
Right.
But at that time, he'd already made 3 films. So he had made,
The trilogy of.
So there is not the third part of the trilogy was not done, but he'd also made 2 other in-between films like John Sagar and so on. So, so when at that time, then I said I went to meet him. I telephoned him and I said, "May I come and see you?" Because by this time, something else had also developed in my life, which was I was part of a group that started a film society.
Okay.
And having started a society, we were like-minded people. So we started by showing all the new films,
Oh,
French
interesting.
new Japanese cinema, different kinds of people from different parts of the world. And so,
very interesting.
Yeah, so doing all of that, then when I went back to Calcutta, I wanted to eat there. So I telephoned and they said, "May I come and see you?" I didn't expect that he would pick up the telephone. But he picked up the telephone when I called him. So he said, "Yes, sir, you can come." So, but I was given very strict instructions. He said, "Don't waste this time. What time he asked you to go, don't meet like that regular Hyderabadi, arrive at 7:30, typical Hyderabad style." So I said, sort of thing. So you go. So I went exactly on time, met him, and then we started to chat about it. He got very interested to know what I was so interested in. And so he was not, I was talking, he was talking by the time. Because you see, so what was happening was that because he was talking, his friends who he knew knew his work very well, and he knew them extremely well.
Right.
But when you know each other so well, your
Right.
conversation is not of the kind of level
Right.
that becomes an exposition of anything.
Right.
I met him, then he suddenly, went into everything, theories of cinema, ye, go, falana, all this kind of thing. And so it was a very exciting evening. And for me, of course, it was like heaven.
आपने उनको अंकुर दिखाई उस वक्त ना सर you showed your अंकुर.
Yeah, absolutely.
जी.
So it was so exciting. And so we went on like this. And he also, he was a very disciplined person. He would always have dinner by 8 o'clock and all that sort of thing. But we went on till about 9:30 until his wife got very angry with him. Saying,
So most wives too.
the dinner's getting cold and this fellow is talking to some fellow that thing, as that always happens. Anyway, so I was till about 10, 15 or so like that. And he never asked me to leave. And I didn't really to leave. It was such an exciting evening. Anyway, I left for 10, 15. And after that, I kept eating. Whenever I went to Calcutta, I visited him on the sets, etc. And when he came, the sound recording quality of the thing was not as good in Calcutta as it was in Bombay. So most of his films, except for the first couple of films in Calcutta, the rest of them he would mix in Bombay.
Right.
Sound mixing, everything was done here. And because it was done here, it became quite easy to meet him. And he came, So, but when I actually started making a feature film, the first film that I made, Uncle, he was my first audience.
Oh, okay. That's so interesting. Okay. He was the first audience. Yes.
Because I wanted to know his opinion before anybody else. Because if I
remember.
Yeah, because I saw him in my mind as like a guru, So I said, he must see this before everybody else and comment on it and see whether I'm going on the right side. So it was my and he of course also was very surprised that I was using anybody else on the screen. I was following any filmmaker's style, my own style of filmmaking.
Right.
So after that, then we became, this kind of senior to junior. It became more, more people who could discuss things about the cinema. In a way that you would discuss, if you were having an academic discussion between two people, it was like that. So, and I used to enjoy that very much because he didn't have that kind of stimulation in Calcutta. I didn't have that kind of stimulation in Bombay. It was very interesting to have him as both a mentor and also a person I could discuss things with that cinema. So,
I have read some, if I could interfere, I have read somewhere that when you showed this film to Mr. Ray, he asked you, what do you want from this film? You said, I just wanted to run at least through a week. through the week. He saw the film and he said it will run more than a week, and your film will receive national award. So
No,
is it true, sir?
I said I would be very happy if the film run for a weekend.
Okay. Okay. Right.
So then he said it will run for many weekends.
Oh, wow. Wow. What a visionary he was. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And in fact, in Selma, which is very close to my office here,
Right.
the Selma called Ganga here,
Right.
when it released, it ran here for 25 weeks.
Right. And you got national award for it, and consecutively for 3 more films you got national award.
It eventually garnered, I think, over the years, it garnered about 36 awards, nationally as well as internationally, all over the place.
So when, yes, sir.
No, so that actually helped me to decide to be a full-time filmmaker.
True.
I was afraid to jump into filmmaking like that because I was too afraid to be part of the mainstream. Because there I would be, what would I be? I mean, nothing. I would just be like somebody else. I would be a carbon copy of someone who was popular at that time. So I couldn't my own way, yeah.
But you did try Zubeda later, and you made that trilogy of, in a way, on Muslim women, and 3 films you made. Again, you got all the national awards, and as people started calling you pioneer of alternate cinema. How did you react to that at that point in time? And what do you think when people call you again the pioneer of alternate cinema in India?
Well, I, in fact, that's I mean, overestimation. Because there were a lot of filmmakers making films in different parts of India at the same time. And like Kerala, you had Aravindan in Kerala, you had Kathak, Nalset, Calcutta, you had various marvelous filmmakers. And they were already making wonderful films.
Right, sir.
I couldn't, I mean, it would be wrong to consider me to be kind of some kind of alternate cinema person, in the sense that I created some kind of new cinema. I did not be part of that group. In the sense they were making in their own languages. They were making very different from what was at that time popular commercial cinema. So whether it is Adur or Renal, any one of them, they were making different kinds. They were not making the different.
Right. That's your humility, sir. I would like to know what makes what draws me to your film is that you have portrayed women in a very different way. Like you have been very sensible to their sensibilities and you made very neat and clean films. Their reproductive rights, their exploitation, and their empowerment. How could you think like a woman in most of the films that you have made? Is it because you were among them, or you were watching the films, the kind of films that you're watching, or you were among with your sisters who were largely dominating at home? What was the reason that you could make such sensible portrayal of women in your film? So I just wanted to know the sensible portrayal of women that you do in all your films. Where does it come from?
Well, you see, I come from a large family. And we were 4 brothers and I have 6 sisters.
Yes. And they were
Yeah,
dominating.
yes, in the family certainly, because they were all their own very independent minds, and
Right.
they chose their own professions and everything else. So they were not what you might call typical conservative, for my generation. Conservative women, they were not like that. They were not sitting there waiting to marry. They were doing things up to on their own and independent. Educated themselves. Some of them educated themselves and became teachers and professors, and like my sister in Catholic. Now she sent her there. She went on her own. She took for her own education. They were very independent-minded people, and that was encouraged in my family. Father, particularly,
Yes.
encouraged behavior. He didn't sort of say he was just sit down, settle down, get married, have children, and so on. He said you decide what you wish to do. Because don't think that this is only a man's world. It's also a woman's.
Right. Right.
So it was because it was what one might call a kind of revolution that was taking place in urban India
Right. Right.
during the time of the nationalist movement.
Right.
Like, say, for instance, somebody like Aruna Asraf Ali,
True.
somebody like Sarojini Naidu,
Yeah.
people like that, they were, nobody called them feminists, but they were.
They were empowered. Yes. Yes.
They're perfectly empowered women. So that was something that my father believed in.
Right. Right.
It is more important is that they should be empowered. Don't sit down and say that we have the money for your dowry to get married and stuff like that. So that was because that was the environment in which I grew up. So naturally, the stories that I was thinking of
Right.
had the qualities in them. I wasn't kind of sitting there and saying, no, I want to. But it automatically happened that many of my early films were women-centered films.
Right.
The central character was always a woman. And because you see, it's also the experience of most people in India that you see the woman is the center. Center of the household. She's not given that position. She puts the family together.
Yes.
She holds the family together, and she also is the person who creates the continuity. She's the one what goes to the younger generation goes via her rather than from the male parent,
Right.
because he is outside of the house. Because his work is outside in the house. So that's the domain of the woman, and that has,
Right.
and that has always been so. But it was not
True.
necessarily recognized like that.
Right. Right.
So it's only a question of recognizing what is in actual fact, not what the male ego thinks about it.
Very interesting.
Yeah, because that's how because when men writers write, what emerges is their ego personality as well as males.
Right. Right. Right.
Yes,
Right. Yes.
you have to get over it.
True. True. So, so, please carry on. Please carry on.
Yeah. So that's basically what it is. And once you are aware of that, then you're not doing anything consciously.
Right, right,
It's
right,
natural that you look at the world in that fashion.
right. Became a part of your system.
You become part of your system.
So, do you regret in a way that now the film industry, the kind of Hindi film industry that it is making films, it is again going back to those almost 70s time when we were making those films, inward looking films, multi-starrer, multi-crores. And then we have these OTT platforms, but and a little bit of alternate cinema. We do have very less of alternate cinema. We have one extreme of OTT where crime thrillers are doing very well, and other one is entertainment cinema. Now, how do you look at this entire Bollywood now, and say from 10 years, 15 years from now?
No, but you're using terminology that's no longer relevant.
Right.
You see,
Okay.
yes. Because there's no
Okay.
such thing as alternate cinema. You know,
Right.
it was at one time. But
Yes,
today,
sir.
there's no such thing because nobody thinks like that even. Because people have become much more educated about audio-visual means of communication and entertainment. And also the media has expanded in every which way. Because you see, audiovisual media does not mean cinema. It means television, it means movie, it means many other things. So you are talking about audiovisual media in a very different way than what it was when there was only cinema.
Right.
So, and now it's not just larger than life. You see, because it was larger than life because you saw it larger than life as well in the cinema. But
Because
today,
of lack of medium. Yes.
we are seeing it on a screen like this. We are often seeing it on a telephone. So it's a question of how you receive it. You know, so we receive it in many different ways.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and therefore there are many different forms as well. See, actually, you can have a 3-part film, or you can have a running series that goes on for year after year after year. You have so many different ways of getting audiences involved in what you have to say.
Right.
So it's no longer what it used to be. It requires a new definition. And I don't think it's easy to define now. That's why we keep using old terminology.
Right. Right. That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Basically, that is the problem. So we don't need to do that, and I don't think you should worry too much about it either, because the things that continues to be relevant is grammar. The grammar of filmmaking remains the same, and it gets extended as well. It's like language.
Right.
There's a grammar, and then idioms change. You don't have the same idioms for everything. They change according to new experiences and new usage. So you have idioms that change. So you should look at cinema from that point of view. And it will no longer be seen as it used to be seen in the past. So a lot of people miss that, So you have groups of people. About a decade ago, there used to be in America, there used to be the film societies who used to call themselves foofs.
Okay.
F. You know what that is? Friends of old films.
Okay, like this. Interesting, very interesting.
Because those are the kind of films that they continue to enjoy. It was kind of nostalgia.
Right, right, right. We still have that. We do live in nostalgia largely.
You see, about you say, I mean, there are people you go into conversation about films and says, "Oh, those good old days," you
Right.
know,
Oh,
we
yes.
used to film and so on. But then things change.
We
You
do.
have
So,
you have to recognize that, and you have to recognize that the method of communication
right,
extend themselves, they become different, but
right.
also remember the reach,
True,
and also how you can express yourself, the
true.
extent of both expression and reach.
Right,
So the medium itself is changing, and
right, right.
once you recognize that, then you don't worry about all of that, and you
So
don't.
how do you, right. So how do you see this film industry going in, say, 10 years from now, 15, 20 years from now, the kind of films we are making and uh, and the kind of ideology, difference of ideology that is kind creeping in the film industry. Some kind of an ideology is being drilled into people. All of that together. How do you view the film industry
We
many
are,
years from now?
it will go on changing. This will go on changing, and don't
Right.
automatically assume that we've come to the end of something. We have not,
No, no,
and
no. We haven't.
I know we have not, and in fact, we are evolving exactly like everything else evolves.
Right.
Certain things will die out, certain things will live, certain things
Right.
will be born. All this kind of thing happens. It's part of life. And so, because it's part of life, I think we make these easy, convenient judgments for ourselves. I don't think they're necessary to be done at all. Because I
Right.
personally feel that there's plenty left to be done. As
Right.
long as they have their imagination and they wish to, they have wanting to create something, do something
Right.
in
Right.
medium. As
Right.
long as that motivation is strong, you go on doing it with whatever
Yes.
forms with whatever
Yes.
form, and you're
Right.
capable of handling.
Right. Yeah. So how do you like the term Bollywood? Somehow I've never liked it, and I always called it film industry. So then, on the analogy of Hollywood, there is Bollywood, the Tollywood, Collywood. How do you like it? If you
Well,
do,
I never liked it. I don't use term. I have never
do.
used term. Now the fact is that it's a term that has come into the language now.
Right.
Yeah,
We'll
so
have to live with it.
we have to live with it. It's a term that's not just used in India. It's a term that's now internationally used for a certain
Right.
kind of cinema. You know, it's a Bollywood which immediately slots it into a certain kind of filmmaking, a certain kind of film, certain way of telling a story, and so on and so forth. It's
Right.
like like in America, you said independent cinema. It
Yeah.
was distinguished between what was Hollywood, the type of film, and
Right.
what was independent cinema, which was different forms, free flowing forms, different kinds of
Right.
things, more individualistic, and so on and so
Right.
forth. Yeah.
Right. Right. So I wanted to know you the kind of films you made and then you came till now. I have heard that film industry is largely very cruel. How did you survive all these days in the industry where you made a very different kind of films, where your producers earned money than you did, and then you made this Zubeda and you made Bharat Ek Yatra, Bharat Yatra and Bharat Ek Khoj. How did you survive all these years in an industry which is largely very, not very, it's
And
cruel this way.
but Bharati Khoj is a different examples because Bharat
Yeah.
was basically trying to bring it to television. Like say,
Yeah.
for instance, in
Yeah.
Indian television, in growing years, one of the problems there was what kind of content you can have that would
Right.
also be, not just offer entertainment like soaps have offer you entertainment, but have a certain amount of content that would involve that get not only entertain the like in terms of escaping your everyday life, but also
Right.
a certain amount of knowledge for yourself for you to get to know your background, your own history, and so on. And that's how when there was a particular time when Doordarshan suddenly decided before all these proliferation of commercial channels that they would introduce, start off a series on Ramayana.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of you must know your own background.
Right.
So Mahabharata, the epics,
Yeah.
which are traditional epics from India,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
what another project came up. That project, I was among the people who had suggested this project.
Right.
Was similarly, why aren't we doing something about the history of India?
Right. Interesting.
Yeah. So, and then for the information broadcasting ministry at that time, and also the secretary information broadcasting at that time said, of course, I mean, why we think in terms of, I mean, tell the story of the history of India. And I said,
Right.
perfect history of India, which is not truly history, but it's a
Right.
point, which
Right.
and probably a viewpoint that a lot of people in this country, accepted, was the viewpoint that Nehru offered when he wrote
Yeah.
History of India.
Yeah.
And he was trying to discover his own country through this kind of rumination thinking about Indian history.
Right.
Where do I come from? What who are we?
Right.
What have we inherited? And where are we going? Now, naturally, that kind of thing. So, when we discussed this, IMA ministry at that time, I said,
Right.
think of a series. So I said, that's the first thing that strikes me, that I'd like to make
Right.
this documentary.
Right.
And they said, it's not just discovery of India, thinking
Right.
slightly larger terms. I said, no, I'm interested in doing discovery of India, but not necessarily from the point of view simply of Nehru.
Yes.
It point of view is there, but then everybody else is historians, different
Right.
historians, and different interpretations of our own history. So I decided to put together a group of people. I had a bunch of writers for each period, and I had my historical advisors for each of them. And then I had wonderful writers
Right.
headed,
Of course.
yes, and all of them, Shama Zayadi,
Yes. Yes.
looking over that department. And then we did episode after episode. I think we shot it for a whole year.
Right.
And
Right. Oh.
yeah, so it ran, week after week, we would have, of course, later on it got extended because
Right.
Nehru had ended it before, at the point when, before it became independent. But we took it a little further, and
Further,
also
yes.
sort of looking at the future of our country.
Right.
So that's
Very.
that. So there was a time when Gurda was showing you Raman, showing you Bharati quiz.
Yes. So what is your biggest, please,
Biggest what?
what is your biggest takeaway from the film industry then?
Well, my biggest takeaway is that it gave me an opportunity more than anything else to do the kind of things I wanted to do. And of course,
Right.
it gained me an audience which nobody believed would happen. But it did gain me an audience. But even more than that, I think what has happened is that it also gave me a certain kind of recognition.
Yeah.
Yeah. And score of documents from universities and also.
Sir, you touch wood by the grace of God, you have sturdy voice. You still laugh a lot, and you're older than our independence. So God bless you for this. So how do you keep fit, and how do you survive all the traumas that the country is going through or has gone through? How do you keep your mental faculty so strong and your voice so strong?
Well, I do yoga in the mornings, and I read a
Okay.
When
Okay.
I'm not making films, I'm reading.
Okay. And what's your routine like when you get up in the morning? And I want to know this because people, when I told many people that I'm going to interview Shyam Benegal Sahab, they say, please ask him, how did he keep so fit? What does he eat? What does he do? So I just want to know what is your routine.
I mean, eating is not a big deal because I'm normally a vegetarian. It's rarely that I eat meat.
Okay.
Because as you grow old, it's a question of your
Digestion.
that it's simply a matter of choice. Because given choice, I'm a great meat eater. And I can't eat very much meat as I grow older. But yes, I keep a fairly disciplined work routine, and certainly, I mean, I don't miss the exercises in the morning.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
Right.
that I do because I have it's a combination of yoga and some other exercises that I was taught to keep my limbs fit. As you grow older, what gives way are your legs. Your legs give way, your back gives way. Very careful about that. But my
mental faculty is strong.
mental faculties will go on accordingly. After all, don't forget that brain is also
Right. Right. Your daughter. Sorry.
Yeah, know what you say?
Your daughter Pia is a fashion designer, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, she is a costume designer, and
Yes,
and she works with me, and also independently. Yeah.
Right, sir. Right.
He has she has a very good aesthetic sense
Right.
and a choice of color. Yeah.
Right. बेटी किसकी है सर? बेटी people call you grand young man. Nobody calls you grand old man anyway. So, what is your preoccupation these days? I've heard you're making some film for OTT or something. I would like to know.
I'm making a feature film. I'm making a feature film on Sheikh Rahman.
Oh, very interesting, sir. Very interesting.
It's an Indo-Bangladesh co-production.
When are we likely to watch this film?
Well, it should be ready by the end of September, early October.
Very
Even
nice.
at sometime, yes. It's in Bengali. The main language of the film is in Bengali. And
Right.
most of the cast is from Bangladesh. But,
Interesting.
but the crew is from both sides. The main crew is from India, and we have other.
You're also producing. You're also producing the film, sir? You're also directing it.
No, government of Bangladesh. Together I'm producing.
Very interesting.
I'm directing it, and we have done most of the creative work with support from Bangladesh. And
that's a very good news.
I am there also. Like, say, for instance, particularly a lot of politics of Bangladesh. You need advice, the expert advice from the other side.
Right.
So it's a co-production. So naturally, you can't just think that you have a point of view and that's the point of view you're going to take.
True.
It has to be both ways.
Right.
It has to be fair to them, and it also has to be fair to us. We may have friction from that side, but the fact is that ultimately we live with each other. We have to live with each other.
Of course. So you're not making any film for the OTT, sir? No films for the OTT in future? You aren't thinking about it?
Well, let me finish this one. Once I finish this film, decide what has to be done, what's the next project. Because there are so many things, when you you're thinking of anything, not just.
Right. Sir, I'm very greedy.
Yeah. What format? It depends on what format. But that format depends on the way it is financed.
Right.
It is not entirely medium which it will go. You're doing that form, you will take the right kind of. Must find its medium correctly. It's not just cinema films that you can make. Have shrunken in size compared to much else that.
Right. Sir, I'm very greedy when I talk to you, but I know that I told you that I'll not take more than 45 minutes. What is the biggest advice that you would like to give to your fans, your admirers, young people who want to learn from you?
Well, the most important thing is that I think you should make your own way. Choose your own way. What you want to do. Because if you say you want to be a filmmaker, then you must question yourself, saying what kind of films would I want to make.
Right.
Not enough to say that I'll be a filmmaker.
Right.
What is your special interest? And what is that? Is that so many factors come into the picture. Like, say, for instance, I may have a certain ambition clearly in my head, but maybe the opportunities are not necessarily conducive to all of that. So what has to happen? How will I be able to adapt myself to the circumstances outside, and how will I make use of the circumstances that are allowed to be? That's very important. Your own ambition is very important. Clarity in what you want to do is important. But more than that, the reality around you is also very important.
Sure.
You can't be tilting at the wind.
Thank you so much, sir, to Awaaz the Voice. I'm grateful to you. You have never said no to me, and I'm grateful to you from on behalf of Awaz the Voice too. Thank you, sir. We would like to see you again someday.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Bye.